Do you ever find yourself on the approach of accomplishing something significant, such as reaching a significant professional milestone, adopting a better lifestyle, or establishing a meaningful relationship, only to see that you strangely impede your own progress? It's possible that you put off doing something until the last minute, that you got into a disagreement with your spouse just when things were going well, or that you gave up on a healthy habit just when it was starting to show benefits. I am certain that I have. Following a visit to the doctor that was cause for worry, I made a decision to make changes to my health. A few years ago, I was consistent for a number of months, engaging in regular physical activity, making decent meals, and obtaining enough amounts of sleep. It was impossible to deny the effects. My energy levels skyrocketed, my attitude improved, and the results of my lab tests showed considerable change. It was then that friends began to take notice of the good changes and remark on them. After that, I started making a few little deviations from my routine, as if they had sprung out of nowhere. Just this one indulgence turned into a regular habit, and just this one missed exercise turned into numerous that were missed. Despite the fact that I had concrete proof that these new behaviors were benefiting my life in every measurable manner, I eventually stopped doing them all and went back to the old patterns that had caused my health to be impaired in the first place. The realization that this was not the first time I had destroyed my own well-being did not come to me until many months later, just when good improvements were beginning to take root. I found myself in the aftermath of the situation asking myself the same questions that so many of us do. Why do I continue to get in my own way? It is very frequent for people to engage in this habit of self-sabotage, but we seldom comprehend the underlying psychological origins of this tendency. In today's lesson, we will delve into the deep ideas of Carl Jung, one of the most famous psychologists in the history of the field. Jung made the discovery that self-sabotage is not just a question of poor habits or a lack of willpower. Jung discovered that these patterns of self-destruction originate from intricate processes that are present in our unconscious mind. These systems, which ironically feel they are protecting us, produce these patterns. Discover why your mind sometimes works against conscious wishes. Learn how to spot the underlying patterns that are driving your self-sabotage, and most importantly, learn how to start the path toward integration and wholeness, which Jung felt was our ultimate psychological purpose. All of these things will be covered in this video. First, before we get into Jung's theories on self-sabotage, let's take a moment to learn about the guy who was the driving force behind these groundbreaking concepts. Sigmund Freud was Carl Gustav Jung's close colleague at the beginning of his career. However, Jung eventually broke away from Freud to establish his own school of analytical psychology. Jung was born in Switzerland. Jung made significant contributions to our knowledge of the unconscious mind, in contrast to Freud, who mostly concentrated on repressed sexual drives. He made a distinction between the personal unconscious, which is comprised of our unique repressed experiences and lost memories, and what he referred to as the collective unconscious, which is a deeper layer that is shared by all people and contains universal patterns and pictures that he referred to as archetypes. Jung presented ideas that have had a significant impact not just on the field of psychology, but also on other fields, such as literature, movies, and even how we view ourselves in the present day. Jung is the originator of a number of concepts, including the concepts of introversion and extrovert, complexity, and the notion of the persona. On the other hand, his idea of the shadow, which refers to those aspects of ourselves that we have denied, suppressed, or never developed, is possibly the most significant contribution he has made to the understanding of self-sabotage. According to the famous quote from Jung, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Jung observed that the unconscious mind is not just a store of repressed wants, rather it is an active, intelligent force with its own agenda, which may sometimes be in conflict with our conscious aims. This is the reason why Jung's framework provides us with unique insights into our patterns of self-destruction. Therefore, from a Jungian point of view, what precisely is the concept of self-sabotage? Self-sabotage may be broken down into its fundamental component, which is the act of our unconscious energies actively working against our conscious objectives. Failure or ill luck are not the only factors that contribute to this phenomenon. Rather, it is a pattern of conduct in which we weaken ourselves in predictable ways, often at vital times. In modern life, this takes countless forms. There's procrastination, where we delay important tasks despite knowing the consequences, self-medication with substances, food or other distractions that provide temporary relief, but long-term harm, relationship sabotage, where we push away people we care about just as things get serious, and career self-limitation, where we play small, avoid opportunities, or create conflicts in professional settings. The patterns are amazingly consistent, just as things are about to change for the better, just as we are on the edge of expanding our horizons or accomplishing something, something inside us appears to pull the emergency brake. Nevertheless, here is the dilemma that Jung recognized. Why would any part of us intentionally injure the precise aims that we consciously desire? If we were to continuously sabotage our own pleasure, prosperity, or well-being, what would be the point? The solution is more profound than we would have anticipated. Jung was of the opinion that the shadow, which he referred to as the storehouse of all the elements of ourselves that we have denied, suppressed, or never matured, is the major cause of self-sabotage. We learn, beginning in early infancy, which aspects of ourselves are acceptable to our family, culture, and society, and which aspects must be hidden away. It's possible that you discovered that anger was not tolerated in your family, or that certain skills or passions were discouraged. Perhaps those who were vulnerable were greeted with rejection, or aspiration was seen as being self-centered. Whatever the precise content may be, each of us develops what Jung referred to as a persona, which is our social mask that reveals to the world just the aspects of ourselves that are acceptable. However, those characteristics that are disowned do not just vanish, rather they are driven into the shadow, where they continue to exist and exert their impact on us from something that lies below the threshold of awareness. The most important realization is that the shadow area often includes not only bad characteristics, but also the energies that are the most necessary and creative to us. When we disavow portions of ourselves, we no longer have access to the positive manifestations that those aspects may potentially have. A clear and powerful connection exists between the shadow and the act of self-sabotage for individuals. In situations when major shadow stuff is not addressed, it has a tendency to manifest in ways that are twisted and often harmful. For instance, if you have denied that you are angry, you can discover that you behave in a passive-aggressive manner, or that you are suddenly drained when you are around certain individuals. You could inadvertently impede the achievement of others, while never pursuing your own goals if you have suppressed your desire. You run the risk of causing conflict in relationships at precisely the moment when true intimacy is possible, if you have rejected your desire for connection. It is also possible that we project our shadow material onto other people, perceiving in them the identical attributes that we have denied in ourselves. This is something that may happen in daily life. In many cases, the individual who causes you the most powerful reactions is carrying a projection of your shadow identity. Jung once said, "Anything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." This is a quote that has become famous. There is a close connection between the shadow and what contemporary Jungians may refer to as the wounded inner child. This refers to the aspects of ourselves that hold unresolved grief from our formative experiences. Jung noted that childhood scars contribute to the formation of what he referred to as complexes, which are emotionally charged groupings of ideas and emotions that may be activated by circumstances that are occurring in the present. Frequently, these complexes are at the center of the patterns that we use to undermine ourselves. Take, for example, the phenomenon that psychologists refer to as repetition compulsion, which is the unconscious propensity that we have to reenact terrible circumstances from our past. According to Jungian theory, this is not only a kind of masochism, rather it is the psyche's endeavor to dominate what formerly overpowered us, in order to fully resolve what had been left unresolved. The concepts that Jung held have had a significant impact on a variety of modern approaches to psychology and human development. Internal family systems therapy, which was established by Richard Schwartz, is a reiteration of Jung's theory of the psyche, which is that it is composed of various components or sub-personalities that need integration rather than removal. People are able to form connections with their protective parts via the use of this strategy, which is analogous to how Jung recommended relationship building with the shadow. Similarly, Jung's concept that psychological recovery occurs via engagement with, rather than rejection of, diverse elements of ourselves, is reflected in the work that is done in a variety of therapeutic techniques. Jung's techniques have been broadened via the medium of modern shadow work, which includes specialized procedures for discovering and integrating portions of the self that have been disowned. A number of practitioners, like Robert Johnson and Debbie Ford, have created strategies that are easily accessible for dealing with shadow material in commonplace situations. In order to construct his ideas, Carl Jung relied on rigorous clinical observation as well as an investigation of symbols from other cultures. Unexpectedly, many of his discoveries are being validated by contemporary neurology, which has been around for decades. His knowledge of the psyche is reflected in research on topics such as neuroplasticity, the adaptive unconscious, and implicit bias. In particular, his research focuses on the effectiveness of the unconscious and our ability to undergo change. By detecting harmful habits, tracing their roots, comprehending the protective function of those habits, and progressively altering them in healthy ways, we witness individuals breaking away from patterns that are self-destructive time and time again. This is a process that is known to us. Jung was of the opinion that genuine development is not about simple solutions or eradicating suffering. Rather, it is about acquiring the ability to hold the tension of opposites. When we embrace paradoxes rather than hurrying to find solutions to them, we evolve as individuals. The integration of paradoxes is a necessary component of mature psychological growth. This includes being both vulnerable and powerful, autonomous and still being intimately attached. This process of balancing gives birth to what Jung referred to as the transcendent function, which is a viewpoint that does not only resolve conflicts, but rather changes them into something completely new. This is the reason why just attempting to suppress undesirable habits often results in failure. When we fail to acknowledge the more fundamental reason for our resistance, it manifests itself in several ways. Jung advised us to go beyond the conflict and see the teachings that are concealed within it. There is a possibility that the same inclinations that irritate us contain latent energy that is essential to our development. The attainment of wholeness requires one to stake one's whole being. Nothing less will do, she said. There is no other way to achieve wholeness. The hero's journey is a timeless narrative that can be found in stories from many different civilizations, and Jung recognized this struggle as a component of it. The hero does not vanquish the darkness, rather they manage to incorporate it. The act of self-sabotaging is not only a challenge, rather it is an opportunity to reconstruct lost aspects of ourselves. According to Jung, the route to wholeness is not about attaining perfect harmony, Rather, it is about learning to embrace and negotiate our conflicts with awareness. Individuality is Jung's phrase for attaining completeness. Consequently, rather of seeing your self-defeating behaviors as simple issues that need to be fixed, you should consider them to be signals from your unconscious. What exactly are they attempting to safeguard? Where do you need to acknowledge the pieces of yourself that are hidden? In order to complete this job, you need to have the courage to confront what you have avoided and to recover your whole potential. The words of Jung continue to be as influential as they were when they were first spoken. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Those who gaze forth are sleepy, but those who look inside are alert. I would be really interested in hearing your comments if you found this to be profound. In your own life, what kinds of patterns have you seen appearing? Which of your observations jumped out the most? Jung's Man and His Symbols and Robert Johnson's Owning Your Own Shadow are both excellent places to begin if you are interested in doing further in-depth research. Also, if you found this to be helpful, please consider giving it a like, subscribing to it, and sharing it. It will be of great use to you. I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become, is a good quote to keep in mind till the next time we meet.